Story 1. You cannot force love. I once lost a girl to a guy who did not like her at all. Years later, they ended up getting together and are doing wonderfully. I used to think it was stupid she was stupid for being so obsessed with someone who did not want her, until I realized I was doing the same thing. How can you lose someone you never had in the first place? Story 2. Someone loving you won't fix you. It's not their job, and you'll still need to pick up the pieces if and when they leave. The best partnerships, in my opinion, come from people who are both 80% put together and want each other, not need each other. Story 3. Communication is the single greatest skill you can develop in a relationship. The second hardest lesson is that boundaries are crucial for both parties. If you can't be yourself and they can't be themselves, then you don't have a recipe for success for either of you. Story 4. 2 lessons. 1. If it feels too good to be true, it probably is. You only know her when you see how she treats you when she gains nothing from treating you well. The second one is applicable for every person, though. Story 5. Just because you have created a fantasy in your head that's perfect, it doesn't mean that the actual relationship will be like how you pictured it. Being someone's partner isn't just hand-holding and sex. It's getting to know someone like you haven't before. It's trust, openness, vulnerability, and love, obviously. Also, never say a woman looks tired when she doesn't have makeup on. That's a no-no. Story 6. Helping someone get their life on track after a difficult childhood doesn't warrant loyalty. In hindsight, maybe I should stop dating women with difficult childhoods because this has happened twice. Story 7. If you are in a position where you have to give a woman everything you have until there's nothing left of you, they will leave you one way or another because you are not the man you used to be. Story 8. Do not compromise your boundaries for anyone. Think hard about the type of woman you want in your life and how you can find her. Do not expect her to change for you. Find somebody who already is the type of person you want to be with. Story 9. My ex, now good friend, taught me this one. You can have everything going for you, looks, job, money, and so on. But if she's not that into you, she's just not into you. Move on to the next. Story 10. Just because someone might say something like, they love you and always will, doesn't mean they actually will feel like that in the future. That's how they feel about you now, and it only applies to now. In the future, they might choose to forget you exist. Story 11. Changing to be the man she asks you to be will get you left because you aren't the person you used to be. Some changes are okay, but do not give up pieces of your personality or self to make a woman happy. She will not like it later. Story 12. 10 years happy. 7 years miserable. By the end of child support, I will have given her $1.2 million, including splitting assets. I would probably have to give her that money anyway, but at least I wouldn't have lived most of my 30s in misery. I can't get that back. Don't stay in a relationship that isn't working anymore. Don't do it for the kids. Don't do it for anyone. Story 13. That women don't owe me anything. I used to be a nice guy in my early 20s, a literal fedora wearer. I'd probably have had a neckbeard had I been able to grow facial hair. But the first time I actually asked a woman out, I learned that the attitude I had toward women was not going to get me anywhere. I got turned down flat, and it threw me into a year of near-suicidal depression because I was so certain that the person I was into would be interested in me. After all, I was so nice to her. How could she not be? It was the realization that being nice doesn't mean you're owed love, or anything else for that matter, that helped me to change myself and climb out of that hole. I'm 32 now, and that realization I had long ago that nobody owes me anything has given me a feeling of freedom that I never could have expected in my shameful past. Story 14. That I do not and cannot understand another person's issues or problems. The best that can be done is acceptance and listening. I have learned that I give too much space to other people's problems, leaving no space left for me and mine, and that is my fault, not theirs. Story 15. Okay. I'm going to put it like this. Men listen to their instincts instead of their brain when it comes to women. And they always choose the wrong ones and then wonder why she is crazy or that she doesn't actually like him. Don't save her. She doesn't want to be saved. From a very true song. Story 16. What applies to one partner may not apply to another one. Maintaining consistency despite adversity pays off in the end. Someone can earnestly and lovingly say one thing, and once the love is gone, completely change their tune. Some grudges can last a lifetime. Some women will end a long-lasting and strong relationship over future plans at the drop of a hat. Your perfect partner can end up looking on the outside absolutely nothing like the person you imagined you'd end up with. Story 17. Never give them ammunition because they will use it against you when you are at your lowest. They usually save it for a rainy day when they need to unload on you and put you down. Story 18. Well, this could come off sounding mystical because it sounds like karma. I don't necessarily believe in karma, so saying this sounds like I do. With every single relationship I've been in that was significant, I've been lucky enough to end up in the shoes of the person I've dated in some way. This has given me some amazing insight and forgiveness. I don't know how or why I find myself in this position, but as painful as it's been just as powerful as a learning tool. Many times, it's kind of like karma in reverse. I've been the one that got away. I let someone get away. I've been cheated on. I've cheated. I've been neglected. I've neglected. I've been dumped. I've dumped. I've dated someone that was insecure. I've been insecure. Is this something I subconsciously put myself through? Maybe. Is it mystical karma? Maybe, but it really doesn't matter. I learn from every relationship. There's not one hard lesson for me. Dating and failed marriages are all one big lesson. Story 19. I've learned that, for the most part, even the most independent, emotionally strong women still really do like when a man takes the lead and allows her to relax a little. Not just financially either, but in almost all things. You just have to be a man they respect enough to let their guard down. Story 20. Some people just don't care about you, no matter what you do for them. They'll just keep you around because you're useful. In better terms, know your worth and don't waste it on someone that doesn't want you. Story 21. Hardest lesson? Believing in a woman without a shred of doubt. Falling for the "I'm not like other girls" shtick. Loving without reservation. Only to be cheated on and discarded. Guess what they say is true about women who work in the airline industry, even if they only load the plane. Story 22. You never really truly know someone. In my case, 20 years with someone, 2 kids, a house, a life. I'm not in love with you anymore. That kind of devastation is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, I hope. Story 23. That you cannot count on anyone. They can change their mind after 2 weeks or 20 years. The only person that you can ever truly trust and rely on is yourself. Story 24. When I was a young man, my mother told me that women are crazy and men are stupid. Time and time again, I've observed the truth of this statement. The hardest lesson I've learned was that a woman either likes a guy or she doesn't. If she doesn't, she will never change her mind. It doesn't matter how much effort you put into it. It won't work. Just move on. Story 25. That she will treat you like garbage simply because she can. Some women will target you for terrible behavior and absolute contempt, simply because they can. You have to set boundaries, increase your social status, or get away from her. Story 26. She was the worst chemistry teacher. She taught every chapter by asking us questions only. Yeah, some classmates had studied the chapter in advance in some tuition classes. But what about the rest? Story 27. I would say my wife being patient with my childishness and temper is one of the hardest lessons. Sometimes someone else being good and showing you over time that you are being an idiot is a hard lesson. In a weird way, it is like you teach yourself the hard lesson. Someone else just highlights it by being a decent person, and the contrast is what hurts. Story 28. The meaning of the works of Franz Kafka. Yes, it was my literature teacher, but I seriously wish I had my heart or actual bones broken instead of this. Story 29. Being kind, generous, and nice to women will not make them feel attracted to you. Women only like those things coming from guys they are already attracted to. I'm not saying you shouldn't be those things. Just never do it to win her over. It won't work. Story 30. The hardest lesson was that of trust. Never ever confess a deep truth to your nearest and dearest. It will come back and bite you hard. She will treat it as the best piece of gossip at her next meetup. Don't care to associate with someone's husband? Say nothing or she will blurt it out in front of everyone. Subtlety is not something women do. Have a deep insecurity? She will weaponize it when she needs to get at you. They call themselves the weaker sex, and that is why they do things like this. Do not ever fall for the "I need you to open up to me" ploy. It is dangerous. No matter who they are, they cannot be trusted. Married many, many years and still getting burned. My wife is my best friend, and I love her, but there is a point where I don't expose myself anymore. I don't ever say anything I would not want repeated down the track. Story 31. You can love her with your entire being, but 3 months of unemployment, even in a down economy, is a death sentence to the relationship. The years you paid for everything, rent, cars, insurance, groceries, going out, literally everything, do not matter when she needs to cover you for a bit. Story 32. You truly do not matter. You can go from being the person they talk to every day and call whenever there is an emergency, to not being considered in their life and a stranger the next. It taught me to consider actions over words, hold loosely to people and relationships, and appreciate the moment while it is there. Story 33. What it truly means to have a love language and to be genuinely selfless towards your significant other. I grew up in a family of narcissists whose every action was in their own self-interest. My parents became embittered when I started to have reasons not to be around them, which was amplified when my wife and I had kids. I saw through their guilt-tripped rhetoric and realized it was only ever about what enjoyment I was giving them. I'm married to a woman whose family is literally the opposite of that. They've accepted me into their family as they would blood, despite cultural differences. I wasn't as bad as the rest of my family, we probably wouldn't have lasted otherwise. But I've wholly changed as a person these 15 years of knowing her. She taught me how to be a boyfriend, a husband, a father, and what is and isn't a reciprocal relationship. She taught me how to grow up way more than my parents ever did. Story 34. Women don't really want you to talk about your feelings. They want you to talk about their feelings. Try talking about your own, and see how fast you get shut down. I've had more than one girlfriend make this very clear to me. Story 35. The best lesson I was ever taught about women by a woman was the best way to garner a woman's attention. It's the same way you get a cat's attention. You have to be aloof, chill, almost like you don't care or even want her attention. Kind of like you might have something they want, but maybe you don't. But if you don't, it doesn't bother you one bit. Let her curiosity get the better of her. Then, when she gets in closer, you spring your trap and catch her with really good pets and run your strong hands and fingers through her hair with near-professional skills. Story 36. They can preach all they want about being open and understanding, but once you get vulnerable and shed the first tear, they'll label you as weak. Go talk to a therapist. Yeah, that hurts. Story 37. If a relationship doesn't work out, I end up being the bad guy anyway. That tends to be true no matter how good or bad I was behaving. Also, retroactively, the relationship has always been horrible from start to finish. Story 38. I learned that men and women are playing the same game, but with two totally different sets of cards. Men have their perspective. Get a woman, go all in, protect, provide, not in material terms as much anymore, but they hope to provide support and nurturing to their woman's heart, mind, and soul to make them feel safe, among other things. We start with this goal very early. Women are coming from a completely different perspective. First and foremost, they seek a good father, provider, and protector. They'll stretch a long way from what they want in a man for themselves when they find that guy. They have the child or children, endure with the guy they didn't like a whole lot, get the kids to school, get back to work, and start looking for the man they want. If she finds the right guy, husband number 1 is gone, and number 2 is coming in. If the guy won't fit as the second, she'll just fulfill what's missing until the right guy does come along. Women and men don't start sharing the same priorities until around 40. Even then, they still come together for different reasons. A man needs help. A woman needs to not be alone. This is what I've watched and experienced throughout my life and what has been shared with me by women. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just what we are. I believe a woman's path relies on tools that men find unappealing. The things that matter to men don't necessarily matter to women because they have this man covering the bases. It's just so interesting to look at it all dispassionately, which is mostly impossible in the 20s and 30s. It's pretty easy in your 50s and on. Story 39. Sometimes you're compatible in every way but one or two important ones. And sometimes that means you have to let go of a good relationship because long-term it won't work out. Story 40. If you have a hunch about cheating, then they are cheating. There is no such thing as a promise. You cannot be vulnerable with them because it will be used against you. Love is conditional. Women can play the victim while subtly being bullies. They always justify cheating. Money and material wealth are a lot more important than they will lead you to believe. Story 41. That I often speak before I think and I lack empathy. I was talking with a girl and my best friend, who is also a girl, and I said something rude that I didn't even think about. I got slapped. We kept carrying on the conversation since the girl knew I was a thoughtless jerk. Afterwards, I confirmed with my best friend that yes, I was indeed a jerk.